This episode is brought to you by State Farm. From your morning podcast to your afternoon playlist, State Farm knows you personalize your entire day, and that's why State Farm helps you personalize your insurance with the State Farm Personal Price Plan. It offers coverage options that help protect what you care about most at an affordable price just for you. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was getting frustrated by your forms. Now, Taxes is uploading your forms with a snap, and a TurboTax expert will do your taxes for you. One who's backed by the latest tech, which cross-checks millions of data points for absolute accuracy, all of which makes it easy for you to get the most money back, guaranteed. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees.
So good, so good, so good.
Just in and so good. Thousands of spring finds up to 70% off are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. And that means thousands of fresh reasons to rack.
How did I not know Rack has Adidas?
Vince, Calvin Klein, Rag & Bone?
Obsessed. Why do we rack? For the hottest deals.
Save on Madewell, Kate Spade New York, Sam Edelman, Joe's, and more. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
It's really cool.
Bonjour, hello, and welcome to the Rosbeast Rugby Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things French rugby, the top 14, Pro D2, National, bars, cities, towns, bands, music, and everything else in between. And this week we are focusing very much on the brilliance of French teams in Europe, in European competition. Yes, this is Rob doing the intro because we are a midweek special. This is how we roll these days. But do not fear, our regular main man is here with me bright and early on this morning. Richard, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. It does feels early. It's dark. It's December in South London, but it is the first weekend of the Champions and Challenge Cup, so I can't complain. It's one of the most exciting weekends of the rugby calendar, and I'll be seeing virtually none of it because I'm travelling to a wedding tomorrow. But I'm hoping I'll be able to squeeze in some sort of deluxe highlights at some point. I'm aiming not to be that guy on his phone at a wedding, trying to be an absolute legend. So yeah, how are you?
Maybe slip in to a few more wedding guests that you do a French rugby podcast as you've been guilty of before. I mean, you say it's early, mate. I've been up since, and I'm sure you have. You know, I've obviously already done my hour-long meditation and an hour-long gym. So yeah, might be 7 a.m. now, but some of us have been up since 3:30. You know, getting our high-performance regime
journaling
in place. Yeah, you know. Alongside our obviously kind of 5 to 9 job. So yeah, just actually taking this is my breakfast break that we're doing this on. I'd like to say I'm doing some big deals, but I know I'm just crunching some numbers.
Some big spreadsheets.
Yeah. Some very, very bog standard management accounting, financial reporting type stuff. Well, let's get into it. The European Cup, as I'm still going to call it because I want it to go back to the good old days of the Heineken Cup and most African teams from a travel perspective. Certainly for you this weekend, your boys are travelling to South Africa. Your boys being Exeter in this case, not Cast. I guess we kind of first fell in love with French rugby through this European Cup and long weekends. So do you want to touch on kind of
we did indeed
potential long weekends that were out there, or whether what kind of excites you?
So our first kind of full multi-game foray, wasn't it? It was we didn't actually go to watch the match. Went to Lyon on the Friday night, then got the train across to Clermont-Auvergne and the Marcel Michelin, which is somewhere I'd love to go back to. It's a pretty extraordinary stadium. Didn't quite do the town justice, I don't think, or I'm not sure if the town was going to do us justice. Either way, there's probably a bit of unfinished business in Clermont. Then we got the long, very bleary but quite comfortable train up to Paris the next day to watch Racing at the Thunderdome play Saracens.
I feel like this is taking us off track. I feel like that Saracens game for me is like a real seminal game because it was the week that the salary cap came out. It just feels like a kind of really does feel like a I was there type moment where, and you think back, it was like the Shags, which is like Ben Earl, who's now like one of the best players in the world. It's like the Saracens because they were pissing all over the salary cap. Their Shags team was actually pretty good. You mentioned Claremont there, who host Benetton, and I shouted out on Monday, Spritz and Scrums. They instead of the Shags, Ellie on Spritz and Scrums calls them dickheads, which I quite like. Like instead of dickheads or Shags or binges, just it's not like the dickheads were playing. I was like, wow, that's quite aggressive. And on Clement, actually, a friend of ours who was on that trip messaged me the other day. He's planning a Bristol playing Claremont in January. I assume that's why he was asking me.
I'm going to assume so. I can confirm.
And he was looking up, and I said, well, maybe try fly Limoges or Brive. And he said, well, actually, Lyon, the train is quicker. So if you are a Bristol fan aiming to go to Claremont in January, probably fly into Lyon and get the train from there. There is an airport in Clermont-Ferrand, but it's like one flight a week from the UK. Also, as you said, unfinished business in Claremont. It is, as the home of the Michelin factory, it is the home of the most Michelin stars per capita or something like that, isn't it?
I believe so.
And yet we had, next to the ground, there is a massive McDonald's, which was where we had dinner before the game. And then after the game and after the fighty bar at pre-match, we had one of the worst late night takeaway. I had a chicken burger, and I can still see like the amount. It was just genuinely like I don't think anyone finished like what they ordered. It was that bad. So yes, definitely unfinished business.
It's too early in the morning for that sort of carry on.
Yeah, and I think we'll preview them a bit more next week. But we've obviously been to some of these great cities. Certainly Paris, Toulouse, Bordeaux. Toulouse and Bordeaux scrapping it out for best city in France for me. We'll do a bit more of a deeper dive for long weekend options next weekend for any English fans or British fans travelling out there.
So I was going to say today, or this weekend, in terms of your double headers, you've got a few, right? So obviously,
I did it on our Pro Day preview, but you've got Colomiers. Well, that's already happened. Yeah, Ulster are in Toulouse, so they've got a one tonight. And I think there's probably a national game. You could do Tarbes on Saturday. So if you're a Newcastle fan, Tarbes is nearby, and that's in National, and they are playing Narbonne, I think, off the top of my head. Scarlets, if you're a Scarlets fan going to Bayonne on Sunday, you could do either Mont-de-Marsan tonight, or, I mean, you're probably not listening to it now, but yeah. Did you find another one on Saturday, did you? Bordeaux, I found Longon as well. That's not far from Bordeaux.
Longon's not a million miles away, no. No, if you're going to see Toulouse, there's an Ulster fan who's going to see Albi tonight, which is supposed to be a beautiful place. Plenty. And we'll say we'll do a little bit more of a deep dive right next week and every week before.
Right, well, let's get into it then, Rich. We've done enough faffing about there. Let's go back to our favourite game, which I don't think you ever actually played because it was when you were on holiday early on in our podcasting time. But with Europe, you have to play the game of will the French team turn up? And because we're at the start of the tournament, we're going to do the tournament, and then we're going to do this fixtures this weekend. So have you given any thought to which teams are going to turn up? Champions Cup.
Toulouse.
So if you do it in order of the current league position,
go on.
First place Toulouse, yes. Second place Bordeaux, yes. Third place Toulon, I'm going yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Fourth place Clermont, I'm going yes. In La Rochelle in sixth, I'm going yes. Cast in seventh, I'm going no.
No.
Racing in eighth, I'm going yes. Stade Francais in 11th, I'm going no, because they didn't turn up last year when they were in second or first. So why would they bother this year? Paul Gustin in charge. He's you'd think that the Anglo coaches, especially someone that's, I think he won the Champions Cup with the Heineken Cup with Leicester, certainly in a final, and obviously
Sounds
won it as a
right.
coach with Sarries. But I don't think that's going to make a difference. Any disagreements there?
No, none. The only caveat to this, which maybe we've spoken about before, is that the structure of the tournament means you don't necessarily need to. If you throw the towel in, you can throw the towel in for like 3 games and win one, maybe pick up a bonus point and progress, and from there maybe stick a half decent side out. So I think it's probably a little bit less black and white than it has been in the past. So Cass, for instance, I think they'll see Northampton and go, no, thank you, albeit Northampton have not looked amazing this year, but then they're at home to Munster the week afterwards and they're proud at home, right? So, yeah, we'll see.
You kind of ummed and ahed over Claremont when I said yes.
Yeah, who else? They've got to play Bristol. I mean, they're playing some good rugby, but they've got to go to Leinster, they've got to play Bristol at home, and they've got to go to
Benetton
Bath.
at home. But they've got Benetton at home.
Oh, Benetton
who are
so this week, yeah.
Spritz and Scrums were laying into them after Benetton's performance last week. So
they'll be sending the dickheads, will they?
They'll probably be sending the dickheads. But yeah, I mean, Benetton are really struggling this year. So Claremont and Claremont at home. So they could be 5. They could be 5 points from game 1 anyway, and then as you say, you're into the tournament then. But also, I think they've got a kind of bit of a romance with the Champions Cup. You know, having always been the bridesmaid for so long, and they've won the Challenge Cup they have won the Challenge Cup at least once. You know, they do have a little bit of pedigree in Europe, even if kind of Urios and the coaching team don't themselves.
As you say, you think they're going to be off to a start, and then it's it's 2 tough away fixtures after that. But maybe that's all you need. Maybe if you get a foot in the door, that changes your outlook.
And Toulon, similarly, you know, obviously the 3-time winners with the GOAT team. They have sent, I've certainly from the photos I saw on their socials from Durban Airport or wherever they flew into, where they bumped into Exeter Chiefs. You know, you had Ludlam, I think you had St. Clair. So that's at least Ribbons. 2 of the Ribbons. So that's at least 3 of your first choice starting pack, which is pretty big if you're going to play the Sharks. So seems like they are bothering to turn up, even though they're flying to South Africa. Challenge Cup very quickly. Stormers, same thing. Stormers are struggling, to be fair. Challenge Cup very quickly in league position order. Will they turn up for the tournament? Bayonne, no. Montpellier 9th, yes. Pau in 10th at home only, which you could say for Bayonne. 12th Perpignan at home only, so no. 13th Lyon, I'm going flat out no. 14th Van, I'm going at home only.
Yeah, hard to disagree with that. I
think Montpellier are the only team that will genuinely put a decent side out away, or semi-decent at least.
And they do have, I'd say for all of their flaws that we've spoken about at length, they do have some decent depth. Maybe not everywhere, but they do have some decent depth. So you'd think get on paper they're probably as strong a side as any in that, and they've won it before, right? So
they won it 3 years ago. I was there. 4 seasons ago now. It must be 2021. But yeah.
So I'd agree with that. I must say I'm not hugely au fait with the structure of the tournament, but it feels like again probably a bit of an inconvenience until you get to the knockouts, and it will just be a case of who can be bothered to overcome that inconvenience. I don't mind. I could see Van doing all right in this because they probably don't quite have the squad depth. They probably don't quite have the rotation available to them, and like how much more. You know, obviously the top 14 is priority, but you know, in theory, you might not know when you're going to get another crack at Europe again. So why not? And they've just turned over La Rochelle. Like, there's no reason they're not going to. You know, they haven't got the quality to do a job on some of these sides, particularly if they're not taking it quite seriously. So that's my romantic outlook for the Challenge Cup. Back Van, put your money on Van.
Yeah, and they've got, just on a very technical point, they are allowed slightly more non-GIFs in the top 14, but I'd imagine they will play a lot of them in this because they can.
Yeah.
And then, you know, they've got any French players coming through, they might protect protect for the top 14. Also, their fixtures, they've got, if they do go full noise at home, they've got two of the stronger sides in the Challenge Cup in Gloucester and Edinburgh at home. So you think if they win them, then actually they are quite well placed. So yeah, maybe that favours them. But I think that depth, those teams, some of those teams are really struggling. So if you look forward just very quickly to this weekend's game on the Challenge Cup, Leon and Poe still have both struggling, and and Perpignan, and they all have so many injuries. Like they're not even Leon and Poe at home. They can't put a full noise team out.
So Poe looks vulnerable to Newcastle this weekend.
Yes, although at home they will go relatively strong. I think. Be interesting to see I'm quite intrigued to see how that compares, because I think those teams in France are struggling in the bottom end of the top 14. It'll be interesting to see how they fare against the supposedly poor performing teams from the other leagues.
Yeah.
Champions Cup this weekend, it mirrors what we said before, basically in terms of who's going to turn up. Cast aren't going to turn up at Northampton. Stad aren't going to turn up at Munster. So, no. And then in terms of the tournament generally, then Rich, Champions Cup, big question is, can you see past Toulouse? Can you see past Toulouse in terms of French challengers, and can you see past Toulouse in terms of the tournament winners?
I can see Leinster. I think they've maybe been written off a little bit too quickly, bearing in mind they were a couple of metres off a drop goal away from winning it last year. I think that's been quite quickly forgotten.
And they've got Jordy Barrett and RG Simon.
Yeah, which and Slimani as well to shore up the scrum. So I think they've recruited well, as much as, I find Leinster a little bit robotic. So yes, I think it's those two, and I think they're probably on more of an even keel than has perhaps been painted in a few areas of the rugby media. I think it's those two by a bit of a distance. I think it's then Bordeaux probably in a bit of a category on their own. And then you've probably got a chasing pack of maybe 4, 5 who're looking at semi-final, and then you don't know. So I think
who you saying,
from a French perspective, so Bath and Glasgow, I think maybe the Bulls
or Sharks.
Sharks.
Sharks won the Challenge Cup last year, and we know how good their on paper team is. Is just like their on paper pack is
extraordinary, isn't it? But they tend to be a little bit iffy at points and the travel thing. But the Bulls have been pretty consistent for a while,
and altitude whenever they've got people. Home, which the Sharks don't have. So,
and then maybe a little bit further down, but I think probably the best of the English chasing pack at the moment is probably Bristol. And I think just the way they play, they can just tear like they did at the weekend. I mean, Harlequins aren't maybe the side they were, but it's not easy to go to Quins and put 50 on them. Like they don't really give a shit where they play. It's just sort of like they're punchy enough up front and then just wang it around. Yeah. So I think that's how I look at it, to be honest, which is probably no great surprise.
I think I'm gonna give a shout out to Leicester. Bit of parochialism there. They've got a bloody tough set of fixtures away at Bordeaux and Toulouse to bookend, at home to Sharks and home to Ulster. They should win that, but Leicester's pack is good. Leicester's pack
need to win two, don't you?
Yeah. So if you win that Ulster game and pick up a couple of bonus points here and there, you might even go through, and then you're in the mixer for, yes, you're probably going to get Leinster away again in a knockout, which Leicester seem to get every single time at the moment. But also Checker in charge. I think, he's a man who's gone deep in the Champions Cup. Was he in charge when Leinster won in 2009? Or was that Schmidt by then? I think it was Schmidt by then. Yeah, Bordeaux, I think, will be the bridesmaids again. I think they will be semi-finals, quarterfinals, but play some great rugby, blow some teams off the park.
I did see. I can't remember where I saw it.
I don't think they've got the scrum to mix it.
Maybe not, but I did see and the draw is so convoluted. It's so tricky, but I think if the results in the pool stages follow the sort of intended path, they'll basically that they would have home games all the way through to the semi-final, and therefore, chances of maybe getting into a final, then you don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't fancy their chances.
Life is made up of many gorgeous moments. Cherish them all, big and small, with Blue Nile. Whether it's for yourself or a loved one, Blue Nile's unrivaled selection of expertly crafted fine jewelry and statement pieces help make all your moments sparkle. Blue Nile's experts are on hand to guide you, and their diamond guarantee ensures you get the highest quality at the best price. Celebrate a life well lived in the most radiant way and save up to 30% at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com.
Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car riding your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms are on AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro, cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
O'Reilly. You need parts? O'Reilly Auto Parts has parts. Need them fast? We've got fast. No matter what you need, we have thousands of professional parts people doing their part to make sure you have it. Product availability. Just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
And team, we neither of us have mentioned there, La Rochelle. Where do we? Obviously, they had a stinker last weekend, but they've still got the players.
Yeah.
Is their time done? Was that a kind of golden period for 2 years, and they're not the team they were?
Honest answer is I don't know, because I think we have seen glimmers, haven't we, of them being back to the sort of team we know. I think maybe a couple of. I still think the likes of Skelton and a few others are still operating at a really high standard, but I don't know quite if, I don't know, your Jonathan Dantes, your Sutenis have quite hit the heights, Aldrit. But I mean, if you talk about raw ingredients, that they've got absolutely everything you need for cup rugby. But it hasn't come together for a little while. But I mean, it's the Friday night game. It's a pretty good one to start, isn't it? It'll be a good barometer as to where they are, particularly after the loss to Van.
I did see just on Aldrit, I did see that he's come out and said he's aware that his form is not where it could be and not what it was, and he's really focusing on the Champions Cup as to kind of showcase where he's at and showcase that he can get back to his best talent. So that's encouraging. He's a pretty switched on bloke. He's I don't think it's a terminal decline, but it's a real rut he's going through. I think on La Rochelle, and we might as well move on to the games in focus. That is obviously draws the eye quite nicely. The two past winners, but I think La Rochelle, they haven't. The reason why they've been a bit up and down, I don't think we've seen consistently week on week kind of them being able to pick the same side or like being able to pick a full strength side, because they've had so much chopping and changing with injuries, internationals. 1 week they've got Jonathan Dante playing flanker. The next week they've got their Champions Cup winning him in part of a Champions Cup winning centre pairing. So 1 week to the next, they've not got that much consistency. There was a period where they did, where you had kind of Hastoy linking up beautifully with Lades and Knoll and Doolan and Teddy Thomas, that kind of those outside backs kind of really clicking. And so it'd be nice to see them go back to that. I think Bath have got the pack to be able to mix it with La Rochelle, because as you say, Skelton and Antonio are still rocking it. And they scored a couple of maul tries against Van that made them look pretty fearsome. Where do you see the difference being made in this game? Finn
Russell, probably.
Yeah, that was my leading question for me.
Yeah, I think Bath are a really high quality side, and maybe were it not for a Barno getting sent off in the final last year, I think there's a pretty good chance they shade Northampton. Obviously, it's a big if, but Yeah, I think they've got great depth. They've got proper ball carriers, haven't they? Like across the park. Yeah, I think they're a really, really high quality side. They were the only side who pushed Toulouse really in the tournament last year, bar the final. Like they were within, I think, 8 points away from home. They did all right. So I think Russell's the obvious one. I think they can mix it certainly in contact. Scrum, Thomas Toy's playing, it's probably not going to go too far. And they've arguably got, if he's playing, I don't know did he get is Underhill back or is he still injured?
He's not playing, no.
Okay, well that rules that out. I was going to say that arguably the sort of best English back row going, other than Jack Willis.
Yeah,
based on the Autumn International. So yeah, I think Bath at home should be actually something with a little bit more foresight. Maybe could have worked out a way to get to that, but never mind.
Yeah, I realised that when I realised that my Friday evening's looking free. I was like, oh, I could have come to Bath. Tie it in with Christmas markets as well. That's meant to be a big thing.
Oh, mate, I went once to the Christmas market in Bath. It was the busiest thing I've ever seen.
I reckon Edinburgh Christmas market was certainly one of the busier places I've been. But
okay. Yeah. Would not recommend.
Next big game for us, we reckon Stormers v Toulon is an intriguing one because of the travel. I think Toulon are the stronger side. Stormers have got some brilliant talent, but I think I really rate Toulon's chances in that. I don't know whether that's a bit of French parochialism and not knowing that much about URC, but I think Toulon are good, mate.
They are good. No, I don't disagree with that at all. And again, what do you need to win these? You need some massive lumps, and they've got that, and they've got a little bit of quality behind. So
I think Begles travelled as well, which is interesting. Whether he's kind of quite still got it will be interesting to see. But he's quite a sort of player you might quite like to have, kind of in an away Champions Cup game.
Yeah, I think. Look, I haven't seen enough of the Stormers. I know they've got some proper names, but they are near the foot of the URC table, right? They're down there with like Zebra and Ospreys, so they haven't had a magnificent start to the year. Toulon, why not?
Yeah, backing them.
Why not?
Interesting game that could be carnage that we've seen loads of times. The next game for us Saturday night. Racing v Quins. Is this at La Défense? Do we know?
No,
do we know for certain?
It's at Créteil.
Is it?
Yeah.
Excellent. Love that.
Yeah, it's at Créteil. Because so Charlie, who for the listeners you might have heard mentioned a few times, he's our sort of
don't give him any airtime.
Quins nerd. So we have been to watch a few games with him. He was gagging to go purely to go to this stadium. Throughout the year, I think Racing have had a slightly tough press. I think where are they in the league now? Like 8th.
Yeah,
I think they're better than that chasing pack, and I think they're not far off that sort of what do we call it? Group of teams between sort of 3rd and 8th. But I don't know. Harlequins won last year, didn't they, at La Défense against the full noise team?
Harlequins were brilliant in the Champions Cup last year.
They were.
They weren't miles away from Toulouse, to be honest.
No, they weren't.
They were actually put up a good fight.
Let's go Harlequins.
You're going Quins, are you?
Yeah.
You love Racing, mate.
I do, but I just don't. I'm not feeling it for them.
Okay. Harlequins fans will bring some noise, and we saw last week with the Toulouse fans that actually Créteil looks quite cool.
Yeah.
When we've done that, when they've got fans. The two big games. Maybe this is me again, some Leicester fan parochialism, but the big game, I think one of the games of the round, Bordeaux 100%. Hosting Leicester. I was there the last time they played, and Leicester won with the Shags. Well, the Shags plus Genge and Ford. And it was very much the George Ford show. I think it was a record
howling rain and wind, and
it wasn't rain. It wasn't great conditions, but it was Leicester. I think Leicester got the record for most kicks in a game in the Champions Cup. Might have been overtaken last year, I think, by someone. But yeah, they George Ford kicked the leather off it. It got to a point where I was kind of, I'm not sure I want us to win this, partly because I want the post-match atmos, which actually still delivers even when Bordeaux lose, and partly because I was just so ashamed. But it was a really cool game. Obviously, Jalibert wasn't playing because I bumped into him in the street that morning. Bordeaux are a different side now, though. They were kind of on the up then, but now they are rock stars.
They were a bit callow, weren't they?
Yeah, they are. I think it will be interesting. I don't know whether Leicester's defence will be able to. We could see a repeat of the Saracens game last year. That's very much possible because Bordeaux, when they're on it at home, are relentless and they are pretty much unstoppable.
Yeah.
And also they've got a bit of game time under the belts now. You know, they have had a few injuries, but they all played basically last weekend. The pack, I think, is the area for Leicester to target, both scrum and line out. Bordeaux's line out can get a bit wobbly, and Leicester have in Liebenberg and Martin. I think Chesham's still injured. They've got some brilliant line out options. Harry Wells is brilliant at line out time, and they could really disrupt Bordeaux there because Bordeaux can get a bit wobbly. Scrum, we saw with Quins away at Bordeaux in the quarterfinal last year, and also the top 14 final, and last week at home to Montpellier. That Bordeaux pack can struggle. The front row, I'd say, the back five, or certainly the back row, is brilliant. The second rows, they've got brilliant options. They are perhaps a little bit lightweight there, but they can get done at scrum time. And Leicester have been going great guns there. Nicky Smith's been brilliant. Nicky Smith versus Big Ben is a proper matchup. That quite a similar build to Finn Baxter. I wonder if he'll struggle with Nicky Smith the same way he did with Finn Baxter last year.
Possibly. I think you're right to be optimistic to an extent about Leicester. I think where Bordeaux kind of alluded to it there, like they've now got multiple ways to win games. Like they've come through tight ones when they haven't quite been on song. They've come through games in like honking conditions, come from behind away at Van with a sort of not third string, but like with a load of injuries and losing Jalibert in the first 5 minutes or whatever it was. Like it's not. I think they're far more complete, and they're used to winning, and they've got multiple ways of doing that. So I think, assuming they have a decent enough side out, Big Ben's back, I still think they'll probably have a little bit too much for Leicester.
I think they might just have a bit too much speed across the park. Like you look at Jalibert, Pollard isn't the quickest. Jalibert is rapid. You look at the kind of centres and outside backs compared to Leicester's. Leicester don't have a genuine flyer, and Watson isn't a genuine flyer anymore. It is still quite a kick chase base game. They're very physical. Yeah. Parise, Kata if he plays, or Kelly, but I think the pace might outstrip the physicality.
And when it clicks, it's a joke, isn't it? I mean, are we going to see BRA turning Freddie Stewart inside out?
Oh,
maybe?
God, no. Okay, yeah. I think it could be close for like 50 or 60, and then it could be it could end up being kind of 15-point winning margin, but I reckon it could be close. Final one to wrap us up for the games in focus. Toulouse, just because it's Toulouse, they're reigning champs. That could get ugly for Ulster. It got ugly last year when I think it was in Ulster. So
they're not quite the side they were, unfortunately, are they, Ulster? They have signed Arno Augustus for next year, which is a great signing, but could probably do with him this weekend.
Yeah. Claremont, as we said, we're backing them to beat Benetton, and we're the other two, Munster, Stephenson and Northampton Cast.
I think home points now comfortably. Yeah.
Challenge Cup, Dragons and Montpellier. I'm going to go Montpellier in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sides out as well. Looks all right.
Yeah. Bayonne at home to Scarlets. They're not going to lose that. Lyon, who knows? Cardiff going well. I reckon they could lose that. Perpignan, note on that, they are playing the Cheetahs, who obviously aren't in the URC, and they are playing in Amsterdam. So Cheetahs seem to base themselves in Amsterdam for their home games, because Poe played in Amsterdam last year. I am going to back Poe against Newcastle. I think Newcastle might not send. If you look at Steve Diamond when he was at Sale, he didn't really bother with European competition. So I think they might not send a great side.
I think that's fair.
And you want to talk, obviously, about Van's first European game.
It's amazing, isn't it? I think, not that maybe you're not going to get the kind of glorious European away days, but if you... it's like two flights. When I looked at it, I have looked at it. Well, from the UK anyway. But also, like, from Van. It's not like we're in London. Like, you imagine London to anywhere is pretty good. From the west coast of France, which is a good... it's a good schlep from Paris or any other functioning airport. Yeah, it's if you were going to draw out of a hat who your first ever European opponent would be, I don't know, you'd be, even in the Challenge Cup, you'd probably be going maybe like Gloucester, or who I think they're playing next week,
or like
Connacht or
Edinburgh. They've got Edinburgh at home, haven't they?
Or maybe you'd get like a. If in another season you'd get a Leicester or you get a Northampton or something like that. Black Lion, Tbilisi, what a schlep! First of all,
there will be at some point over this weekend, some media outlet, possibly some other podcast, will have gone into it. There will be news of a 50-hour journey for Van to get to Tbilisi. It will be like a 5-hour coach to Paris, and then Paris to Bucharest, and Bucharest to Tbilisi, or something like that, won't it? It will be like, and there'll be like the blokes will take 5 different flights, and
but good luck to them. Also, good luck to them in their amazing new European kit, which is like a sort of turquoise Celtic inspired teal, similar vibe,
light teal,
very, very cool. And they're going to win the Challenge Cup, so watch out for them. Watch out for them, Black Lion.
It's a very cool kit, that. It's one of those, cool. And actually, I think a lot of the French teams, I know Stash is your area of focus as a man of fashion.
Thank you, Rob.
There have been a lot of nods to, certainly the Challenge Cup, but the French teams have nodded to regional heritage.
Yeah.
I think the La Rochelle one is covered in like boats and maritime stuff. The Poe one focuses on, it's actually Bernay's colours, so it is red and yellow, which is quite rogue. You think of, which is quite flair. The Bayona in Basque green, which is quite cool. And I think Toulon have got a similar kind of heritage type thing. I think that's really cool. You know, you're gonna do a special kit. Why not make it all about you and your heritage?
Absolutely.
Fun weekend ahead. Look out for those kits. We have been,
follow us everywhere.
You wrap it up.
I'll wrap it up. You can follow us everywhere, in person if you want. A bit weird, and there's laws against it, but give it a crack. We've been the Real Space Rugby podcast. That is Rob. I'm Richard. Have an amazing first weekend of European action. Au revoir.
Au revoir.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.